Buddha came. So Lord Buddha is actually described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as being an incarnation of Krishna. Lord Buddha was out of great compassion upon these poor cows and the other animals too, but especially the cow, appeared for the purpose of stopping the cow killing. So how did Buddha do that? He said, you're following the Vedas? These Vedas are false. He said, just understand, if you cause suffering, that suffering will come back on you. He taught ahimsa, or non-violence, the law of karma. So he denied the Vedas. You see, the Vedic culture was completely destroyed when Buddha came. One king, Emperor Ashoka, he took up Buddhism, and with the king's help, they completely wiped out the Vedic culture in India. There was no Vedic culture left. All of India was Buddhist. There was no Varnashram system, the Brahmins, Kshatriya, the whole thing was wiped out. The Indian civilization based on the Vedas was completely put to a stop. So, that wasn't a very good thing. I mean, it's good they stopped the cow killing, but it wasn't good they put a stop to the Vedic culture. You see, they had bastardized the Vedic culture, so Buddha wiped it out, but now something had to be done. So Krishna instructed Lord Shiva that you should appear as Shankara. You see, the Buddhist philosophy is everything is zero, everything is void. The ultimate reality is nothingness. Everybody gets situated here. We're not continuing. I like everybody to be focused on what I'm saying. Welcome. So, Buddhism philosophy, everything is zero, the void, you see. The Buddhists believe in merging into the void. There's nothingness. There's no God, there's just void, you see. So that's completely different than the Vedic teaching, you see. So, Shankara, in order to bring the Buddhists back to Vedic culture, he taught a version of Vedic philosophy, which was based on the Vedanta Sutra. Actually, he was very expert in Sanskrit grammar. So he twisted the aphorisms a little bit. He tweaked them a little bit to come out with a different understanding than they were actually meant to have. To say that actually the ultimate reality is impersonal oneness. And the ultimate goal is to merge into that oneness, like you were saying. That was but he did that based on the Vedanta Sutra. Just like in the Vedas, you'll find it where it says God is arupa, he has no form. But then in the next verse it'll say, but his form is like this. In other words, it'll say he has no form, but then it describes what is his form like. So that really, what really the Vedas are saying is he has no material form. So Shankara, though, didn't teach that. He just taught God has no form at all, period. No material form, no spiritual form, arupa, no qualities, nirguna Brahma, He taught that principle. And by doing that, the Buddhists felt comfortable. If he taught that God has a form, they would, no, get out of here, you see. But he would say, but he was able to reestablish Vedic culture based on this concept that the ultimate reality is an impersonal oneness. God is the impersonal oneness. And that, Krishna, Shiva, Brahma, Indra, all this, even himself being Shiva, they're all just manifestations of the impersonal oneness, illusory manifestations of the impersonal oneness. Your existence as an individual is also illusory, and that's why you're suffering. All you have to do is merge back into the oneness, and then you'll be happy again. So it worked. It was a temporary measure, emergency measure, to drive Buddhism out and to bring back the acceptance of the Vedic scriptures as the basis of Indian civilization. He was very successful in doing that. In fact, there's hardly any Buddhism left in India. If you want Buddhism, you got to go to the Far East, China, you see, or Japan. You don't find much Buddhism in India. It's hard. He was so successful with practically Buddhism, it's practically gone. There's so very few Buddhists there in India. But that's the home of Buddhism. But Shankara was so powerful, he completely decimated Buddhism and reestablished Vedic culture based on an impersonal understanding. But that was only a temporary measure. Then the Lord instructed a number of great devotees, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, to come and gradually, step by step, little by little, reintroduce this idea of a personal God. Like Madhvacharya taught Dvaita philosophy, which is like completely opposed. You get the Dvaitas, the Shankaras, they're Advaita, and the Madhvacharyas, they're Dvaitas. It's like butting heads. Dvaita, Advaita, Dvaita, Advaita, Dvaita, fighting back and forth. But Lord Chaitanya came, and he introduced a philosophy that amalgamated everything together. Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. That the absolute truth is simultaneously, inconceivably one and different. He said, okay, both are correct. Dvaita is correct and Advaita, they're both correct. And here's how to amalgamate them. This was the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in one sense, the liberated soul does merge into God. But he merges in the same sense that, like in a symphony orchestra, all the instruments are in tune with each other. Just like when I was a kid, I used to play in the All-City Orchestra for Houston. I played the violin. So before we began our practice, the conductor would have the lead violin player. He would play the one note, the middle C, I think it was, on his violin. And every single instrument would tune their instrument to match the lead violin player. I would tune my violin, the tuba player would adjust his tuba, the cello players, the trombone players, the trumpet players, everybody would tune to that one instrument. So we were all one. We were all in tune with each other. But still, even though we all had tuned ourselves to that one violin, we were still separate. You see. So the actual oneness is to be in tune with God. You put yourself completely in harmony, in tune with Him. But at the same time, if that orchestra was reduced down to just that one violin, it wouldn't be as attractive as a whole symphony orchestra. So the actual meaning of becoming one with God is not to lose your individuality, but it means to be perfectly in tune with Him. That means your every thought, your every word, your every deed, in all times, places, and circumstances is in perfect harmony with His desires. So that is the actual system, that is the actual program for being qualified to go back to the kingdom of God upon leaving this body. In other words, using the example of the orchestra, if you're not willing to tune your instrument with the lead violin player, you're not welcome to be part of the orchestra. You're not allowed to be a part, to play with the orchestra, because you'll be like a monkey wrench in the gears, or like sand in the sweetgrass. If one player refuses to tune his instrument with a lead violin player, then it ruins the whole sound of the orchestra. But everybody who's willing to tune in with that lead violin, yes, you're welcome, come. So Krishna is like the conductor or the lead violin player. And if we're willing to tune in with him, then we're welcome. You may know, well, why are we in this material world? Well, we were rebellious. We didn't want to be in tune with him. He said, no, I'll be my own, do it my own way. All right, well, you can do it here in Sidney. But when you realize that, what am I doing in this material world? I have to get old, I have to get sick, I get to die. Maybe there's a better place than this. I mean, this is not ideal. There's so many things about this material world I do not like. Isn't there something better than this? And when one develops that inquisitive nature, it's called the desire for self-realization. When one develops that inquisitive nature, then Krishna, who is sitting in your heart, he's a person in your heart. In his expanded form called the Paramatma, four-arm form of Vishnu is in the heart. It's, to be precise, Lord Kshirodakashai Vishnu is sitting in the heart of every living entity. He's an expanded form of Krishna. So when he sees that you're sincerely wanting to get out of the suffering condition of material existence, that Lord who is seated within your heart, he then will bring you into contact with his external manifestation. Who knows what is that external manifestation of the Lord within the heart? Does anyone know? That is the Guru, the spiritual master. So when one comes in contact with the spiritual master, Shri Gurudev, when you come in contact with him, now you're in touch with God. Not that he is God, but he has the full potency of God. He's God's representative. So as soon as you come in contact with Guru, now you're reconnected with God. And then if you will take the instructions of Guru, you will follow his instructions, then you remain connected with Guru, with Guru of course, but you remain connected with God 24 hours a day. And then you're fully qualified when your body finally gets worn out and useless, and it's time for you to move on, because you have dovetailed yourself perfectly in God consciousness under the spiritual master's direction. Now upon leaving your body, you go back and you'll be an associate of the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. You'll be one with him in purpose. You'll be one with him in perfect harmony, but for sweetness, for the enjoyment of that Supreme Person, he keeps individuality and keeps you as an individual also. If you become disharmonious, then you're back here. But as long as you're in perfect harmony, doing everything to please him, then you're a welcome person. You're one with him in purpose, but you're separate from him in personal identity. You see. So Shankara taught half of it for the purpose of defeating Buddhism. He didn't teach the other half. He came under Krishna's order to do that. So Krishna then ordered others to come and fill in the other half of the picture, so you have a complete picture. But even though Krishna made that arrangement, the Shankara philosophy, the monistic philosophy, was appealed to many, many people, because in this philosophy, I get to be God. I just have to merge back in and I become God. I actually am God, but I just forgot about it. You see, actually I'm the Supreme, but I forgot. Now I just got to meditate. Become God again. It's very attractive idea. But does God have to think about it like this? God is all powerful. So how could God ever forget that he's God and fall into the illusion that he's not God? That means that forgetfulness is the Supreme. You see? So this idea that actually I am that Brahman, that Supreme Oneness, I am God, but I just forgot about it. Now I'm thinking I'm Mr. Patel here, and Sidney, I have to go to work and all that. No. So now we'll do some kirtan.
I had a question.
Yes.
Sankaracharya was so powerful. He taught the monistic philosophy that many people took it. But then he also said, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam Muramate.
Very good point.
Why they didn't
Shankara,
take?
right before he disappeared, he wanted to let all his followers know that actually this is not the whole picture. In the end of his life, he said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudhavate, Papte Sanahi, Dukhan Karane. It's not just a few words there, but he's saying, in English it's translated as, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. Your grammatical knowledge, you fools, he called them. Mudha, you fools, you foolish rascals. Your intellectual knowledge and your grammatical word jugglery will not save you at the time of death. Just worship Govinda. So he made it very clear that actually you have to come to the platform of bhakti. That just trying to merge and thinking that you're the supreme is not the ultimate truth. So, but he gave that instruction, but they didn't get the message. So now, so in the impersonal philosophy, they want to merge into the Supreme. So we can also, we Vaishnavas also merge, we have our sort of merging, but it's a merging of the state of complete harmony with the Supreme. So it's slightly different merging, but actually this merging is ultimately more satisfying. So now through the kirtan especially, we want to take our consciousness and try to put ourselves in a state of perfect harmony with God. The kirtan is a vehicle, is a meditational vehicle or technique for bringing us into that state of complete perfect harmony with the Supreme. Yes?
Can I ask a question? In those yesteryears when they used to sacrifice cows or animals or whatever, the main purpose was being told, as I understand, is to give them a new life, rejuvenate it. Say, for example, if there's an old
They
animal.
wanted to prove their effectiveness of their mantras also. They wanted to show their power as Brahmins.
Right.
How powerful they were in their mantra chanting. That was another purpose.
Okay. But by doing so, are they actually not putting that certain animal, giving it a new life? Are they actually not putting, instead of promoting to the next life, in the cycle,
Your
are they
question
actually
is,
not...
were they prolonging his sojourn in the cycle of birth and death? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but
It's
they are
a
being...
very interesting question. And letting him, instead of letting him go on to the next life,
Yeah.
it's an interesting question. The question would be, well, did that animal, let's say an animal is slated to live for 15 years, and at the age of 12, his body is really old, so at the age of 12 he gets a new body, and the question would be then, did he have to live another 15 years from the point of that yagya, or did he live 3 more years in a young body and then leave? It'd be an interesting question. I see your question, I don't know the answer, but it's a very good question. Because it would be, in a sense, not good for the animal to make him have to stay in that body longer than he was slated to before he can move on to the next higher form. It's an interesting point.
But isn't that the animal is not going to go back? So it's better he lives in a good body rather than going and taking another.
See, normally you have a set number of period of time in each form, and you gradually go up to the human form. So he was wondering, did that held him back from attaining the human form? That's what he was asking. That's a very interesting question. I appreciate that intelligent. I like intelligent questions, even though I can't answer them, because then I can be looking for the answer myself. So next time I ask, I can answer them.